Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, When the Walls Close In. I'm Jim Olson with the National Tile Contractors Association, and I want to welcome you for taking the time out of your busy day, busy schedule to attend today's webinar sponsored by Noble Company. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to remind you that during the webinar, you'll be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer and type in your question. We will answer those questions at the end of this presentation. If the audio on your computer is poor, call the number on the invite to this webinar and listen on your phone. All NTCA webinars are available to watch at any time on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after the webinars are presented. This gives you easier access to watch and or share all current or past programs at your convenience. All right, here we go. I'm very excited to introduce today's speaker. Dean Moilanen is a Division 9 waterproofing, crack isolation, and permeation specialist who advises on some of the most demanding and prestigious projects in the USA. As a 35-year veteran of the tile industry, Dean's relationships with architects, builders, and owners allow him access to some of the most challenging and compelling design issues in the industry. Dean's extensive career on job sites gives him a real-world perspective as he has seen firsthand success and failures relating to product selection, installation issues, and sequencing challenges. I want to welcome you, Dean. We really look forward to this. All right, have a good one.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, good morning. And what I'm going to try to do here is, I can see my bright and shining face, and there you go. Well, it's good to be back here. You know, I enjoy doing these presentations every year, and they always come around the same time. It's almost like, you know, oh, it's May or June, it's time for the NTCA presentation. And so thank you for allowing Noble Company and myself to share some information with you. A little brief background, you know, house cleaning, so to speak. I have been with Noble Company for 22 years. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's been a wonderful place to really delve deeply into Division 9, waterproofing, crack isolation, sound isolation, and just overall installation of ceramic tile and natural stone. You know, those of you out there, you know, for decades, Las Vegas was just on fire residentially, commercially, and of course, we all went through that slump back in the 07, 08, 09. But I will tell you, you know, right now, Las Vegas has over 200,000 hotel rooms. That is the most of any city in the U.S. And so it's been a wonderful opportunity at every level. You know, I got my start as a Western Regional Manager and then National Sales Manager. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I went over to take over the architectural program at Noble Company. And so I do work a lot with architects, designers, specification writers, but I also, because Las Vegas is my backyard, I try to keep my hand in it with the local installers. And as an NTCA ambassador, I try to, wherever I'm going, spread the good news about this organization. So let me see if I can get this party started here. This is an approved AIA presentation, meets all those guidelines, and I'm sure we're all aware of what they are. And IDCEC, also an approved session. Now, I will tell you, if you need your IDCEC approval today, you might not get it because we are they're lagging a little bit behind in getting their approval process. But the important one is AIA, so hopefully that'll be of value to you today. Now, what we're looking at here, and this is really, to my mind, a cutting edge challenge. Something that's recently occurred, it popped up, and that's, we all know about the proliferation of large format wall surfaces in wet areas. You know, ceramic tile, you know, low absorption porcelains, you'll see agglomerate marbles, you'll see cast stone, a variety of products, some of them traditional ceramic tile and natural stone products, and some not so traditional. And what's happening with the advent of these products and the differing installation methods amongst different manufacturers, there's some concerns growing about waterproofing in what areas. You know, we're primarily talking about the shower walls, whether it's a individual shower in a home, hospitality, could be spa, health clubs. So what we do is take a look at the history of, for some of us old boomers, we know the story pretty well, but there are some people hopefully listening who are younger and maybe aren't aware of what happened back in the roaring 60s and 70s with ceramic tile. But we'll look at vapor migration and how it plays a really key role in these large format installations in wet areas. And also too, there's some, sad to say, some misinformation out there, some misperceptions, and sometimes just downright ineffective installation practices with regard to the installation of large format wet area surfaces. And we're going to go over those as well. But at the end of the presentation, I think the biggest thing I want to do is make you aware of just how prevalent some of these concerns are. And so whether you're an architect tuning in today or a contractor, or maybe you work for a distributorship, forewarned is forearmed. And so hopefully you use this information to keep your eyes open and make sure that you don't fall victim or prey to some of these less than best practices out there. So, let's look back to the roaring 50s, 60s, 70s. And, back then, 2x2 unglazed mosaic, 1x1, penny rounds, 4 1/4, white body wall tile. Maybe if you're really getting adventurous, 6x6. But this was the surface that predominantly dominated wet area applications. Shower walls, the showers of your bathroom, the counter, et cetera, et cetera. And here are some examples. And if it was a 2x2 or one mosaic, it came on most times on a dot-mounted sheet. 4 1/4 tile was for the most part U.S. produced. And if you go way, 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 way back, some of these tiles actually had to be soaked before they were installed. But the point is, the tile size was relatively small in wet areas, okay, during this time. Now, I got involved in the tile industry in the early to mid 80s, and there were a lot of really revolutionary manufacturing concepts come into play that were, and here you see another example of, a patterned mosaic on the floor and 4 1/4 on the wall. But the 80s came about, and all of a sudden, we're making this fast-fired Monocatura 8x8 and, heaven forbid, 12x12 floor tile. And some of this floor tile started winding up on the walls because people just wanted a different look. They wanted a different feel. They didn't want that many grout joints. And as time went on and manufacturing methods continued to evolve, pretty soon we had 12x12s and 16x16s, and these products wound up on the walls. All right. And along with this development in larger and larger format tile, there were the attendant developments in waterproofing. And look, today we're at, 10-foot by 5-foot pieces of ceramic tile, and as well as these kind of hybrid agglomerate panels and large format pavers. Cast stone is another description of these kind of hybrid products that they're not particularly ceramic tile, they're not particularly natural stone, but they sure look like it, and they're being used in wet areas, okay? Again, the point is, as the tile got larger, the grout joints got smaller, okay? Now, back in the 60s and 70s, when you had, 2x2 or 1x1 on the floor, bear with me, I'm a little dried out today. The hot weather has hit Las Vegas, and it's been hot and windy and full of pollen. So trying to make sure I clear my throat a little bit here. But back in the 60s and 70s, you still have a lot of dry packed mortar being used, wall mud, deck mud, true craftsmanship. and oftentimes, the 4 1/4 and 2x2 was set in a plastic, which means still a setting bed that wasn't quite cured out yet. And then, with very, very high degrees of skill, that 4 1/4 tile, that 2x2 or woman was, was placed onto the still plastic mortar bed. But there also started to be the emergence of green board for use in wet areas, okay? And we all know now, I hope we all know now, we should know by now, that green board is not something to be used in wet areas. But back then, I mean, millions of homes had green board used in wet areas. And in fact, the first home I bought in Las Vegas in, oh gosh, it was like 1996, 97. It was a well-built home, but it had green board. And, from there, cement backer board became, I remember cement backer board becoming a big deal in the early 80s. And, and the concept is pretty simple. Gee, I may not have the skill set to do a float wall with mortar, or I don't have the time, or I want an easy way to do it. So I'm going to use a cementitious backer board unit, okay? And, with those changes in the substrate, there also were some changes in how you approached your waterproofing. Great, you've got a shower, there's going to be lots of water, there's going to be steam and vapor. How do you control that? Well, back in the day, if you're using backer board, you just look up a poly, like 4 mil, I'm not sure the exact thickness, but you have a poly, film vapor membrane that was put behind the backer board, okay? And if you were doing fat mud on the walls, you would you'd use a felt paper, okay, that went behind the mortar bed. Pretty basic, pretty time honored and efficient. It worked, okay? Here's some examples of just that poly put behind on top of the studs, and the backer boards to be placed on top of the poly, okay, to prevent moisture from migrating back into areas where you don't want it, okay? And of course, you see that classic, loose laid shower pan fold over the curb, okay? Still a time-honored method in many parts of the country, okay? But over time, and I remember, gosh, I feel like it was a kind of a neat time to grow up in the tile industry. I started to see some of the first liquid membranes, and the development of sheet membranes, not the loose laid, but the bonded sheet membranes. And those soon became the staple best practices, as oftentimes contractors would put a liquid or sheet membrane. Make sure I don't spill my little cup of water there. But they would use a liquid membrane on the walls and or the shower pan, or a sheet membrane, a bonded answer, a 118.10 bonded membrane on the shower pan. You didn't see on commercial projects, you might see a bonded membrane on the walls, but during the 80s, not really a common practice. And of course, we all know where we're at today. Gosh, the number of liquid membranes out there, the number of sheet membranes, whether they're PE, polyethylene, or PVC, polyvinyl chloride, or the Grand Poobah CPE, polyethylene, the most robust and durable thermoplastic out there. But there are a variety of sheet membranes out there. There are a variety of liquid membranes, and now we're seeing foam board being used in these wet areas, okay? And for some of you, this is obvious knowledge, kind of like back to spring training recap. For some of you, it's kind of nice to view the evolution of how we've arrived at the point we're at with our waterproofing in wet areas on the walls. But even with foam board, different manufacturers, different permeation rates and resistance to vapor migration. Some of these products can be used in steam rooms, some of them can't. Some of them require additional blocking, give a little more rigidity to these foam boards. And the big challenge right now, I think, for anyone using foam is just this supply chain challenge out there. There just is a real challenge on a variety of levels getting product to the marketplace. So All right, you're going great. Okay, I got a brief recap of the history of tile and how it's grown larger. That's great. Okay, and I got a recap of, kind of simplistic, but a basic recap of waterproofing. Okay, that's great. All right, so why should you be concerned about solid surfaces or cast or cultured marble, agglomerate stone panels, large format tile, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, large format tile is anything 15 by 15 or larger. We obviously know that there are now systems in place where you can put 3 pieces of large format porcelain, 2 side walls and a back wall. So what's the big concern about waterproofing? Why are we here today? And first of all, I'm gonna kind of scroll back here. Bear with me. I want to find a quote. All right, and bear with me. Here we go. A couple quotes on waterproofing or water in general. Okay. Nothing is softer or more flexible than water, yet nothing can resist it. And keep that in mind, okay? And then here's a quote from a noted forensic tile and stone expert. As a stone and ceramic forensic expert, I have seen hundreds of failed installations of large panels, stone, ceramic, porcelain, agglomerate, solid surfaces. The number one reason, the lack of an effective vapor barrier is put on the substrate before that large format product is installed. Okay, that comes from Fred Houston. He is a nationally recognized forensic expert. Okay, so I say that because this is a real concern, and here's why you should be aware of it. Okay, I think we'd all agree that most installations now have some type of waterproofing on the walls, residentially, commercially, custom homes, whatever you're building and putting tile or a large format surface on in a wet area on, there should be some type of waterproofing, right? Okay, well, let's kind of set the stage why that's important. Okay, there's actually an ASTM standard that helps you to evaluate how good is the waterproof membrane I am putting on my wall surface. Okay, it's ASTM E96 Procedure E. Okay, and the gold standard, the magic number, call what you want, is 0.5. Okay, and as the number increases, well, that's not good. Now I'm reaching for my phone to keep an eye on track of time. As the number gets lower, that's a good thing. Okay, and now a lot of architects, contractors, specifiers kind of assume, well, a liquid membrane's a liquid membrane's a liquid membrane. Well, yes and no. There can be a huge disparity in the permeation that can be allowed based on the manufacturing and the inherent characteristics of that particular liquid or sheet membrane. Okay, and depending on which membrane you pick out, it could result in mere ounces of vapor migration into your stud wall cavities or gallons. And now let me sort of bring that to life. I didn't include this chart, but I'll just basically lay this out to you, turn your mind's eye on. Imagine you have 1,000 square feet, basically 10 showers over a week's time. All right. If you have a membrane out there that comes in at about 0.15, okay, that's well below 0.5. You're going to have maybe 55, 60 ounces of moisture in the form of vapor migration or steam over 1,000 square feet over a week's time. That's negligible. Don't worry about it. You've picked out a really good product for your wall waterproofing membrane in terms of vapor migration. Now, there are some legacy liquid membranes out there that were primarily designed for shower pans, okay? But they're used on the walls, and they might be 0.8, 1.2, 2.2, 2.5. Okay, now that same 1,000 square feet over a week's time, that's going to be literally gallons of in the form of vapor, steam flowing into your assembly behind the walls, okay? Now, general rules of thumb, but you want to make sure you check with your manufacturers, okay? Man, I am really dry today. I apologize for all this gulping of water. Most liquid membranes will not meet this metric, ASTM E96 procedure E. Does not mean they're inferior or defective, but there's a good, better, best in every product out there. It just means if you're really concerned about vapor migration, if your liquid membrane doesn't meet that metric, it's up to you to decide whether that's important to you or not. There are several liquid membranes out there that will meet and actually exceed, get below 0.5. So do your homework, okay? Because let's face it, some folks like to use liquid membranes, some like sheet membranes, all right? But wherever way you go, if you're concerned about vapor migration, you want to make sure you look at those performance characteristics. Now, most sheet membranes will meet that metric, but not all of them. So don't assume because it's just a sheet membrane, it's going to get you there, okay? And I always say, look, all due respect to the marketing arms of any company, you know, the sales and marketing folks, but it's best to refer to third-party test results. Like, for example, Tile Council of North America does a lot of independent three-party testing. If they've got the test results on the product you want to use in hand, you can be assured they're going to be accurate and independent, okay? Now, what are we trying to stop, okay? Black mold, a variety of molds, but black mold really is the worst one out there. And, you know, depending on who you speak to out there, you get a variety of different opinions on how serious the issues can be. But know this, if you have a compromised immune system, if you've got any kind of health concerns, black mold can be a real detriment to your ongoing good health, okay? And I'm showing you here where just recently there have been some insane awards that have gone, jury awards gone on to plaintiffs in cases where they said, hey, look, I either stayed at this place and they had black mold in the shower, or I lived in this apartment or condo and they had black mold. But can you imagine $50 million being awarded to one particular person because of mold? And it, I know it's hard to envision, hard to wrap your hands around sometime, your arms around, but you can have a large format 2x4 0.5 absorption, low absorption porcelain and rectified tiny grout joints. And unless you have an effective waterproof membrane that can knock down that vapor migrating through the wall assembly, you could have down the road some significant issues with black mold. And living in Las Vegas for 32 years, 22 years with the one company I work for, I have seen some horrific examples of black mold getting into really high-end properties and causing a lot of problems, a lot of disruption to that property's ability to keep their rooms open, and it can be avoided. Now, this shot goes back years, and this is if you know Greg Moat, he's been around for a long time, and you know, whenever you see the forensic inspector come into your shower stall with a biohazard suit and a mask, you know it's probably not going to be good news. But let's take a look at it. Look, what we're trying to build a case where if you're involved in large format applications of whatever on the walls in what areas, you would do well to take heed how serious this whole mold remediation, vapor migration situation can be. Your cost can be as low as $28 per square foot to remediate for small residential projects, or up to $150 per square foot for major projects. And we've seen lately $7 million mold remediate. By the time you get rid of the mold and rebuild the showers and button everything back up, it can be very expensive, okay? And hazardous to individuals' health along the way. So again, why would you want to be concerned? You're the architect, you're working for a distributor, you're installing, you own a tile company, or you're an installer. Information, knowledge is power. And so I think this is something where in my discussions with individuals in a variety of settings or across the country, I don't think the awareness is where it should be. And that's why I'm here today to sort of share this information. And, let's look at the traditional tile contractor, one that may have been around in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. That whole model of doing business has changed. A lot of these quote tile contractors have morphed into floor covering companies, or vice versa. A floor covering company has kind of morphed into a tile contractor. They're doing vinyl, they're doing wood, they're doing laminate, they're doing cabinets, and so that whole business model has changed quite a bit. And you may ask, well, what is the relevance of that? Well, you now have installers who, they might not work for a particular tile contractor. They may get hired out. 1 week they're installing, luxury vinyl planking. The next week they're putting up large format porcelain in the shower. The next week they're doing a cultured stone or a cast stone. And there can be some, oftentimes, they're all kind of similar, and gee, I've got the skill set where I can do all these things. But these blurring of the lines are not always a good thing, all right? When you look at these, when I say non-traditional solid surface shower wall finishes, it could be there are plastic acrylic large format panels. There are cultured marble, cast marble, agglomerate marble. If you're a contractor, you go, well, so what? Okay, well, because you work for a floor covering company, and maybe you're doing a pretty traditional shower pan, you're doing a dry pack mortar bed, and you're putting whatever's on that shower pan, but gee, while you're there, can you put up this solid surface wall finish in the shower, on the shower walls? Doesn't look that much different than a large format piece of porcelain, right? But what we're seeing in our survey, and when I say survey, it's not just been myself. I've got a colleague, James Medina, but we go online and we kind of research these different gray area large format wall finishes, and we call tech support lines of companies that manufacture them, okay? And then we go on YouTube. That's always a laugh or two. We go on YouTube to see what they have to say. And what is of a real concern is that in almost all instances that we've come across, there's no real advocate or requirement or discussion spelled out for the use of waterproofing or any kind of vapor migration membrane on the walls. In addition to that, some of these products are advocating, they tout, well, you don't have to have a special substrate. Gosh, if it's drywall there, go ahead and use it. If it's green board there, go ahead and use it. Again, why are you concerned if you're a contractor or an architect? Well, I'll give you an example. And I'm working with a large, very reputable, long-standing waterproofing consultant and architectural firm. And they're working with they're doing consulting with another architect, and for whatever reason, with this particular product that is in that gray area of wall surfaces, most likely will be installed by the tile contractor on the project, there are no specifications for or requirements for waterproofing on the wall or on the solid one piece, we'll call it a stone pan, okay? Of course, the consultant, and I will tell you, every consultant that I spoke to, and I got to speak to a lot of them. You see this slide up here, the International Institute of Building Enclosure Consultants, okay? This is a nationwide, a continent-wide organization, and look, they deal with waterproofing on the roof, on the building envelope exterior, below grade, but more and more of these members and consultants and experts they're working in Division 9, ceramic tile, natural stone. And so I was just at their national meeting a couple months ago, and just talking to these individuals, and they are concerned because the mentality of, okay, well, gee, if it's okay not to have waterproofing and not to have, okay, if it's okay not to have a traditional substrate for wet areas behind this large format product, do I really need to do it if does the same hold true if I'm doing a large unit porcelain? Maybe it's a 3-piece porcelain wall product. And I'm gonna move back to this slide, because what we've seen overwhelmingly suggested is that the use of some proprietary caulked, sealant, joint filler, adhesive product, if you can imagine where the inside corners meet of a large format product, where ever there is a seam that where that product might meet the lid, that just the use of this product is going to somehow be good enough, okay? And I will tell you, I have not met a consultant yet, and when they had surfaces in Las Vegas back in January, I ran this by a couple of consultants, and again, just sorry, just gunning in some type of product, urethane, silicone, whatever, is not going to be good enough to prevent over the long haul vapor migration into through the wall assembly into the stud wall cavities. Okay, and it kind of goes back to this, that description about water being the softest element we know, but also the most invasive, and and translates to, we would all agree, moisture will find a path, whether in whatever form that moisture comes in, it's going to find a path, the weak link in the chain. The same is true if you have any kind of large format ceramic tile, agglomerate. I think we get the picture. Any one of those type of products on the wall, you just can't rely on caulk joint, okay? And so, in most of the when I meet with the chief engineers, and when I walk onto a Las Vegas hotel project, and I've known some of these folks for years, I think everyone knows this. It's caulk and repeat. That caulk joint, that silicone joint, that urethane joint is going to be a maintenance item, okay? And it's also, and the effectiveness of that joint is going to depend largely on the skill of the installer putting it in. And as simple as it may seem to do that effectively, I'm sure some of you have seen it about people dragging the tip, being in a hurry with a caulk gun in their hands, okay? So the consensus is you can't rely on that. Now let me put some sort of additional meat on the bones. I travel a lot, all right, and my analysis is that this is far more widespread than most people realize, and that I think it could be analogous to a ticking time bomb in terms of litigation out there. Again, I'm careful not to mention names, but I recently met with a general contractor, and they travel the country, and they work with the large national and international hotel chains, hospitality chains. And he said, look, we're not given the time to do it right. In many of these wet areas, the overwhelming product being put there is green board, sometimes backer board, sometimes just good old drywall. About half the time, some sort of liquid membranes put on the wall, but about half the time, nothing at all. And that's even with, we're just talking just regular ceramic tile, but with large format tile. And this gentleman knew, he was very clear what we were talking about. He said, look, no, this is just, as a general rule, we're working for a large corporate entity. We're going in and doing repairs, renovations, additions. And no, there is no standard template for us having to have an effective waterproof membrane that will, have a low permeation rate and not allow vapor to migrate to the stud wall cavities, okay? And, where did I get some of this information from besides me traveling and talking to people? You look online and you do some research. These are mainly legal, by the way, legal articles. The growing impact of toxic mold litigation. Growing mold, growing litigation. Well, that indicates a growing problem. These are recent titles I pulled to help support some of the contentions I'm making in this presentation, okay? And so there's I'd say right now there's some confusion. And that confusion comes from a variety of sources. Again, the blurring of the lines as the traditional tile contractor role takes on different flooring elements, different wall elements. These different wall elements and flooring elements have their own industry best practices that somehow sometimes the assumption is made, oh, well, if it's good over here, it's probably good over there. And what better example is the gentleman in the organization I just met while traveling, who is literally on the road all year long doing work like this. And in many cases, when they come back in and they're replacing the ceramic tile that may have been there, they're using large format agglomerate, one-piece units of a variety of surfaces on the walls, and they're just not using the correct substrate or the correct waterproof membranes. So the solutions on the surface seem pretty simple, okay? Use approved wet area substrates only. No drywall or green board. I would also suggest that, if there are any architects or specification writers in attendance today, that you look, sometimes these things kind of deteriorate over time in terms of what's acceptable, and look at whether your architectural design firm, are you calling out for some of these hybrid gray area finished wall surfaces in what areas, and whose instructions are you relying on? The manufacturers, or are you relying on the ceramic tile industry best practices, standards, etc.? And regardless of the product being put on the wall, regardless of the size, and I will tell you, I have worked with architectural firms who are using like these large format sheet, acrylic, for lack of a better description, almost a plastic type of solid surface that covers the whole wall. And they're still using low permeation membranes that meet ASTM E96 procedure E. And again, remember, most liquid membranes will not meet this metric, okay? Some sheet membranes will, but not all, okay? Those sheet membranes that incorporate CPE technology, thermoplastics, do the best job of addressing the standards needed for ASTM E96 procedure E. So in conclusion, regardless of the large format finish, there has to be effective waterproofing. Whether you're an architect, an owner, a contractor, please don't make waterproofing assumptions based on one particular product's instructions or lack thereof. And that general contractor I met with on the road, he said, the time saved, the money saved. Okay, great. I have seen $14 million remediation litigation scenarios based on some of the topics we're discussing today. And I guarantee you that whatever they saved up front, they lost on the back end. And it may seem blatantly obvious, but sealed, caulked, siliconed, adhesed joints are really failure points. If you're relying on that, make sure that your wall substrate and what lies beyond that is going to remain free from intrusion of vapor migration. It's pretty much going to fail. So we've reached that part of the presentation where I like to make sure we're endorsing with everyone online the use of qualified labor. as an NTCA ambassador, I was telling Jim Olson earlier, I feel like I have, 1 foot in the architectural world and 1 foot in the world of tile contracts. I mean, I was recently on a large project for Hilton, working with contractors for several days, right in the showers. And so I try to let them know that, and I've seen evidence of just how this qualified labor language can have real teeth, and it's part of the master spec process. And I have seen people hired, not hired, and in a couple cases fired because they didn't meet the requirements of qualified labor as spelled out in master spec. Of course, BSD Spec Link, which just recently changed their name, but I think you get they put that language into their product as well. And if you look below, you see a variety of organizations: the Ceramic Tile Educational Foundation, Advanced Certification for Tile Installers, the NTCA. There's a variety of ways that a tile contractor can avail himself of the information and knowledge to become a recognized qualified labor installer. There are some of the very, not all, but here are some of the important areas they work with. Large format tile, which very relevant and pertinent to our discussion today. Membranes, also relevant. Mud work. Mud work is still being used in many parts of the country. Still recognized craft, and almost a level of art that goes into good mud work. Showers, definitely touched on that today. So as you can see, these organizations are going to get these installers up to an accepted level of expertise that's going to ensure, if you're an architect or a designer, that whatever you spell out, whatever you want used, whatever eye-appealing natural stone or large format product you pick out, it's going to last and be durable for years to come. When done properly, ceramic tile natural stone has the longest life cycle of any finished product out there. So it's really important to keep qualified labor at the forefront of it's part of the recipe for successful long-running installations. And one more look at some of the contact points for these groups. I'm sure if after this presentation, if you have any questions, Jim Olson and his group there can help you with that as well. And I am going to wind this thing down. I'm going to go from here to the airport and go on another trip. So, but I think we have a few minutes for questions. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jim.
Dean, thank you. Lots of great information there. I think this will be very important. I do want to let anyone know looking for a AIA or a IDCEC CEU to either contact Dean. His phone number and his email address is on there. Otherwise, I did put on the chat screen, you could also reach out to Tony at noblecompany.com, TONI. She works in the office. She doesn't travel like Dean does, and she'll probably get back to you right away.
Yeah.
Dean, I have a concern here.
Yeah.
I need a clarification from you. A couple of designers reached out, and in the beginning you mentioned that IDCEC was having a problem getting CEUs to designers. But then at the end you said it doesn't really matter, AIA is the important one. And they took that very poorly. I'd like you to clarify that for them, please, because I know that isn't how you feel. And they thought it was derogatory. And I mean, I got a lot of email on that. So I just want to make sure you know.
Yeah, I apologize. I did mean for come across that way. I guess, in our time challenge world, and my perception is not always correct. Look, we value the roles of and the input of designers, and my apologies for not getting that certification in time. Let's just say we'll do our best to make it right, and we have a variety of presentations that are IDCEC approved that I would be happy to share with you one-on-one with your office. And just let me just I guess about what I was trying to say, and it didn't come across the right way, is we were racing the clock to get the certifications taken care of. We were grateful to get the AIA certification in time, and unfortunately, we couldn't get the IDCEC done in the time allotted.
So let me clarify to everybody. What Dean is saying is that they tried to get it accredited with ID CEC and didn't get it done in time. So there isn't an ID CEC CEU at this time, and they hope in the future to have it available. Is that right, Dean?
Oh, I guarantee you. Yeah, I guarantee you this. I would guarantee you this is going to be every one of our presentations is AIA and IDCEC approved. Just unfortunately, just couldn't get them both done in time for this presentation. We got the AIA done, but not the IDCEC.
So for all of you out there, Dean, Noble Company, and NTCA, we love designers and architects equally. They're very important to our industry, and there was no, we were not being derogatory, and Dean was not being derogatory to designers. So sorry if you took it that way, but it wasn't meant that way. All right, we're going to go on to questions now.
Okay.
So I think you answered this one already, Dean, but why do city inspectors pass inspection on green boards in showers?
Wow. You know, let me line up some of the people who say it's a no-no. The International Construction Code, ICC, ANSI standards, I believe Tile Council of North America, your organization as well. I don't know of one legitimate group of or organizations out there that are promoting best practices that would endorse the use of green board. Now, my question is it in the drying area of the shower, or is it in the actual shower?
Yeah, and I don't know that Angie's still on here, but Angie, if you'd like to follow up on this question, that'd be great. I think if they're passing it in the wet area, we have a situation that needs to be addressed. So.
And you know, look, to be fair to inspect, I mean, there's so much information out there. At one time I did a owner builder permit process of my own home, and you know, it's so fluid and ever changing that it could be a very good inspector who just is misinformed, or maybe there's some pocket, because there are local jurisdictions, and you know, you got county and then statewide, and lots of different overlapping regulations. But I just have never seen within the tile industry. I don't think any of us would promote the use of green board in a wet area.
No, I agree. All right, next question. ASTME 96, is it for both floors and walls?
I think for our purposes, I think because, you know, their concerns are, you know, primarily for, I would say walls, you know, because, you know, you're in a shower scenario. Could it apply to the performance of a membrane on the floor? Sure, no doubt. It could be very relevant, but I think the major concerns are you have, you know, you're in a shower and you have lots of steam, and that's one of the things, you know, back in when they built City Center, Jim, the folks at MGM Mirage, they formed their own independent forensic consulting team, and they found out that, you know, the typical hospitality, typical student college dorm showers, health clubs, they generate so much steam over the long haul. They're almost mini steam room environments. So you're starting to see a lot of specifications that just call out for ASTM E96 Procedure E. It's actually a steam room level of performance. But I think more architects and owners are like, you know, I'm gonna, you know, it doesn't cost a lot more. The cost difference is negligible. Put a membrane on the wall that meets that criteria, and then it's just another tool. Is it the only thing that's going to prevent vapor migration or mold in your subwall cavities? No, there's other elements that come into play, but it's you know, when you look at the wall surface of a shower, if that entire wall surface can, you know, actively repel and prevent vapor from migrating through the wall assembly, that's a good thing.
Great. All right. What about drainable rain screens created by furring, especially in hot, humid, wet climates with reservoir exterior claddings?
Okay, I'm going to officially say that's beyond. I mean, I understand what the question is, but that really that goes beyond my skill set. and I would be reluctant. It's a great question, but I could try to, I've got friends and contacts that, amongst my consulting connections, I could sure find that out for you, but I'd be reluctant to offer an opinion because that's not really something I get involved with every day. And I want to give you.
How about this, Dean? How about this? So could this person, Robert Burnham, Robert, could you reach out to Dean, and maybe Dean can connect you with some people? If you'll just write down his phone number and email address, it's right on this screen, and maybe he can help you get a really great answer for that question. Is that good, Dean?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, I'd be happy. And I'm kind of curious myself now, so yeah, that'd be no problem.
So how are sheet membranes attached or secured to backer boards?
Good question. Depending on the manufacturer, okay. Some manufacturers will have a proprietary, like a wet set adhesive that will allow for the sheet membrane to bond to the substrate. Other manufacturers will use a non-modified thin set. Some will use a modified thin set, but either it's typically a proprietary adhesive made available by that manufacturer, or it's a cementitious non-modified or modified thin set that's bonded to the wall surfaces.
Okay.
Now, also, I will say there are some peel and stick. I guess there are some bituminous peel and stick options, but I rarely see those used in shower type applications.
All right. Make sure I read this correctly. I hope this is correct. Vapor-proof wall treatment and floor-to-ceiling one-piece non-permeable tile. Does vapor sandwich create mold growth in mold growth area, or how to avoid? Do you understand that question, Dean?
Yeah, I think we're talking about these one-piece drop-in. They might be like acrylic type of all-in-one shower enclosures, and then you put that in front of your substrate, and then the question would be, and here's what I'll answer. In my discussions with another prominent waterproofing consulting architectural group, they had a similar concern. A large one-piece, all-in-one, enclosed shower tub type of deal, but in their case, it was being affixed to the actual studs. Okay, and so my answer would be, even with that, because the waterproof consultant was like, look, we need to have. There's going to be, condensation, humidity. There's going to be even with that type of product, there needs to be a substrate, some sort of wall surface, and that wall surface needs to have some sort of vapor migration performance membrane put on top of it.
All right. Let's see what we got. We got another one. A shower used once a day for 12 minutes. Oh, that was Greg Moet commenting on your conversation about water. All right. How have supply chain problems impacted availability of waterproofing materials?
Okay, I apologize. I was looking at my clock. What was that question again, Jim?
How does the supply demand affect getting shower and waterproof materials? How has that affected you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and I can speak for, I think we're done with the AI portion. So, for a Noble company, we've been pretty fortunate. I mean, our factories are based here in the U.S. Okay, and so we actually control our we make our own products. Some of our products do use foam, and I would say a lot of there's a fairly high percentage of foam wallboards out there now. And depending on, I think you have to go from manufacturer to manufacturer. Our purchasing people have been very, very diligent, and we're dodging the bullet sometimes on a daily, weekly basis. But I would say this: if you need a product like that, I would order it sooner as opposed to later, because even the best suppliers and manufacturers are experiencing, sometimes unexpected. Oops, we thought we had it, we don't. So I think it's best to be cautious, and but I think most major manufacturers are somehow they're keeping the supply chain going.
So I will say, in regards to this question, I was just at a convention this last week, and there was a futurist, an economist speaking, and he was speaking about how the shipping is opening up. It's getting better and better as we go. I read in the local newspaper today that same exact statement. So hopefully we'll see that kind of slow down pick up again, and shipments will get back on time. So I hope that all works. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so again with Greenboard. So this gentleman is asking, so Greenboard is a no-go even with a waterproof membrane in the wet area of the shower?
Well, you know, and look, I've heard that logic used, okay, but I think one of the concerns is realize there's the front side of the Greenboard, and then there's the back side. And, you know, if you've got a plumbing leak, something goes wrong behind the board, you know, if you have a cement backer board, you know, cement backer board will dry out. But, you know, if you've got an ongoing, persistent, even a minor plumbing issue or somehow excessive moisture getting to the backside, and that can happen, that wallboard was not meant to stand up to that sort of invasive amount of moisture, and you're going to have the resultant effects, you know, of that substrate just wasn't designed for that. It wasn't designed to be used there. And if we're just one or two companies or one or two people, but we have, I mean, honestly, every legitimate group out there, ANSI standards, ICC, NTCA, TCNA, you can't find someone that will say, go ahead and use it in what areas. That's a pretty good sign. I mean, I would hate to be a developer or owner who said, hey, let's save some money and use Greenboard in wet areas, and then it has something come down the line, because you're going to have a lot of people, you know, from a litigation point of view, and well, we want to avoid litigation. But, you know, it's going to a big list of organizations who are going to tell you, we told you not to do it.
All right. In regards to sustainability, is there a proper way to dispose of these materials?
Okay, I guess these materials, I hate to assume, but are they talking about the waterproof membranes?
I'm assuming, since that's what our program's on, that's what's being talked. Sophie, if you're out there and you want to send a follow-up to this, that'd be great. But you know, I would answer it that way.
Yeah, I know that again, speaking for our company, we do have a percentage of our, you know, we are primarily CPE, chlorinated polyethylene, you know, thermoplastics, and we do have a certain recycled content that we do use. Okay, it's not a huge percentage, but it is a percentage that's that represents, you know, a significant amount. I think the challenge is when you're talking about if you're rolling or painting on a liquid membrane onto a substrate, cement backer board. I know that there are some ways to recycle concrete or recycle cementitious products. I'm sure that's probably an area that I think most responsible manufacturers are always trying to find ways to be a good corporate citizen. But it's difficult to speak as a whole for the industry, because there's just different manufacturers, different methods out there. I'm sure there's more we could do if we could find a way to do it, you know, put it that way.
So just to follow up on shower use, 12 minutes a day equals 8,760 inches per year in a shower. That's a lot of water. So, all right, next one here. If a shower's being updated by installing a new finish such as GPTP, does the tile contractor need to install a new or second waterproofing layer over the existing tile before proceeding? Good question.
Okay, so they're talking about doing tile over tile, Jim. They're saying
yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think the one thing, and it's, you know, this is all a real challenge, unless you can somehow get to the other side of the wall. You know, I saw some photos yesterday of, gosh, it was a shower in really bad shape, you know, and just looking at the mold and the grout and just a lot of really disturbing signs. You know, I guess my first comment would be, yeah, you can go tile over tile, and there are methods where you can put a membrane. I guess, are they asking, do you have to put a membrane on top of a membrane? Well, unless you know what's behind there, because let's face it, I mean, there are installations out there where they didn't put anything. I mean, even with cement backerboard, they may have just put, cement backerboard, thin set, tile stone. So,
so Dean, don't you think that the answer to this though is really to be safe? If you don't know what's behind there, to be safe, you should, yes. You're spending lots of money. GPTP is really expensive. To put that waterproof membrane up is nothing. Do it. Yes. The answer should be yes every time. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep it simple. Yes.
There you
Don't
go.
take that chance. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Let's see here. So here, this is great. This comes from Sergio. Promoting or not promoting green board is not a code concern. Are you saying that ICC residential and commercial codes explicitly prohibit us the use of green board in wet areas?
I would look. I
think codes are different everywhere, right, Dean? I mean, codes are different everywhere, but we're talking about what our industry promotes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that the ANSI standards say don't do it, TCNA says don't do it, NTC that alone, and look, I guess if you look, you can do what you want to do, and maybe it'll work. But I just think that there's a reason when you have that many organizations and they're independent, they don't have a dog in the hunt. They don't, they want tile installations to last and not have problems. So when that many different organizations come to the same conclusion, it's probably for a reason.
Yeah. All right, next one here. Let's see here. All right. If you use the correct waterproof membrane, does it matter if you use a tile backer board or a cement board?
Okay, when they say tile backer board,
So there's a lot of tile backer boards out there. Foam boards. There's cement, wooden cement. I mean, there's a lot of different backer boards for tile.
A good point. Yeah, I mean, look, there are some of these foam boards out there. They can be used in steam rooms. I mean, they're great. I mean, their ability to repel vapor is excellent. But you want to check. Here's what I would do. I would check on what are the performance parameters of that particular product. I mean, there's Dent Shield. There's people who, that's a waterproof, skin, kind of a glass skin that's a cloth or a combination of products to create a waterproof skin on top of gypsum core. So different substrates are going to have different performance attributes, and that ultimately is going to affect what you decide to do additionally.
Okay. All right. So this is a follow-up to the question about getting rid of product, disposing of product, and it's talking about the disposal of mold. And then a gentleman said negative air pressure bagged all contaminated materials. So I don't have any answers to getting rid of mold unless you do, Dean.
No, I would say when you get involved with that, I think there are it's probably won't be cheap, but when your personal health or the health of your tenants or your guests or your whoever is in question, get a professional and get their, and I would source them for their recommendations on how to remove that mold and dispose of it safely.
I know if you do some research online about mold, and they'll give you lots of answers in regards to that too. But I think I would probably want a professional company to come and remove that mold and get rid of that. So,
yep.
Yeah. All right. So here's another statement. The codes are adopted state by state. Codes are used to set minimums, not best practice, and codes take a while to catch up. The point is that the building inspector enforces the codes, not the best practice. So what I was trying to say is there's lots of codes per city out there, and I agree with this gentleman. They're they're out there and they're probably not updated as fast as they need to be.
Yeah.
Definitely listen to what your industry has to say, and that is the tile industry, Tile Council of North America, ANSI specifications, TCNA. Those are the important ones. So please follow those.
No doubt, no doubt. And I
All
think
right.
I made the comment where, again, no disparaging comments to be directed towards an inspector. There's just so much information out there, and it does vary so greatly that he just might be misinformed, and that happens to all of us.
We got a great answer here too on green board. So TCNA and ANSI don't explicitly say not to use it, but they do say they do not recommend the use of green board in showers. Green board is water resistant, not waterproof. It's promoted as a solid backer for wet areas, but not in showers. So there you go.
Good, yeah. And
all right. And that's actually, just so you know, all that help is coming from one of your co-employees. So there you go.
Great. Thank you, mystery guest.
We'll just say thanks, James.
Yeah.
All right. That was a lot of questions we went through there. That was a great presentation. It's a little bit over our hour. So Dean, thank you. All of you in attendance, thank you. We had over 110 attendees here for this, and I appreciate all of you staying until the end and attending. Please look for our next invite to our next webinar, which will be Tuesday, May 31st. And I thank you all. Have a great rest of your month.
Hey, Jim, just one quick comment. The folks at IDCEC, I truly apologize. I mean, you mean the world to us. My bad for not getting that thing certified in time, but we definitely meant nothing disparaging, or we value your input and your support greatly, and we'll try to make it up to you. Okay.
Thanks, Dean. All right, everybody. Here we go. Thank you. Enjoyed being with you for this last hour, and I hope everyone learned something. Take care. Have a good evening.
Bye.